Welcome to Moss Marketing Mondays, aka the M3 Podcast. Brought to you by Moss Marketing Group, bringing you everything marketing every Monday. Stay tuned for marketing tips and tricks you can use today. The M3 Podcast, marketing knowledge to help you succeed. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the M3 Podcast. This week, I'm going to say I'm a little on the tired side, and we're going to be hitting something a little bit different. We're not going to be covering marketing. We're not going to be covering business. We're going to kind of recap a pretty eventful weekend that we had and kind of go down that line. So it was my bachelor weekend, and we've had a ton of people reach out, a lot of people on what happened, what took place. So I'm thinking we just start from the beginning.
So we're airing all the dirty laundry.
No, we're not airing all the dirty laundry. You're gonna half the story. No, but when.
So first off, Dane's getting married. When this episode drops, it'll be the coming Friday.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a little lead up to that, little celebration that we had planned for Dane, or Dre did a lot of the planning. But yeah, who wants to?
I mean, Dre, you scheduled it all, so I actually didn't even know where we were going until or anything about it.
I think we start with the man van on the drive down.
The man van?
Yeah. I rode with Todd Gentry. We got driving a new Raptor, very comfy, very smooth. Thoroughly enjoyed our ride. Our dad went with Dane's friend Boyan, all of our friends, and
Boyan was
in the man van.
Oh, he was in the man van?
Jamie.
Oh, it was Jamie.
was in there.
Yeah.
So
you weren't in the man van. You don't know what happened in the man van.
And then that's kind of what started this. I think the first gas station the man van hit on the drive down, they were picking up a 12-pack of Busch Light.
Yeah. Every stop.
Yeah.
Dre, drinking and driving is bad.
Yeah. Why did we?
There's like 8 people in the man van.
You weren't even in the bro van.
7.
I never said the driver was drinking.
There were 7 of us.
We started off there. There's supposed to be 12 people in this van.
Yeah.
Yeah, it started at 12.
It started off at 12, and our dad's not going to ride in a van with somebody else driving. So he decides he's going to drive separate. Todd needs to leave early, so he drives separate. So we end up with Reyes is flying down, and we end up in the bro van with everyone pretty much has their own row.
It worked out perfect.
It did.
Yeah, it did. 7 people in a 15-passenger van.
Yeah.
It was spread out nice.
Yeah.
So I was driving the whole way, and once again, I'm kind of like my dad. I like to drive.
Yeah.
And
I think
The speed limit,
most
two
of us,
under.
Most of us feel more comfortable if you're driving. So
yeah, so take the bro van out to Kentucky, and
Louisville, Kentucky.
yeah,
Louisville.
And this is funny because I feel like every trip I go on with friends, I'm always like, guys, let's not go hard the first night. Let's save some, leave some in the tank for the rest of the trip. And I feel like that never happens.
I think we should just lead it with let's go hard as fuck the first night.
Yeah.
And then we'll do the opposite, maybe, but probably not.
So when did we get into our Airbnb?
We got there at 7 because our reservation was at 7 for dinner that night, and we had to call and move it.
We stopped 4 times.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bathroom breaks needed.
Yeah.
The bro van may or may not have put down over 35 beers between 4 or 5 people. So
I think
it didn't even wait until the first night. It kind of started on the drive down.
Yeah, so we roll into the bro van's pretty hyped. It's ready to go. I think everyone gets ready to go to dinner in a whopping probably 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Everyone pretty much goes in and changes shirts and throws on different pants, and we're out.
Yeah.
And we start ordering Ubers.
Well, we get there at 7. And there's an Uber outside.
Waiting.
Someone's like, is there Steven here? And I think it was Logan or someone. They're like, no. And I'm like,
only knows him by Ryan.
I'm pretty sure Reyes is inside right now. And he's like, I walk in, I'm like, Reyes, your Uber's here. He's like, it's ordered for 7:30. He can wait. I was like, okay.
Yeah, so we end up getting into 3 Ubers.
Yeah.
This guy tried to tell me that he could fit 7 people in a Dodge Journey.
Well, we stayed in Jeff Jeffersonville, Indiana.
So
and first when I booked it, we're going to Kentucky. I booked this deal. I sent it to everyone in a group chat. I'm like, hey guys.
That was some Joe Verde shit.
So yeah, I'm like, hey, I'm like, pick a place. Let me know which one you like. Everyone's like, this one had like a pool. It overlooked the river. We get there. It's like, not the pool's closed. The river's like really far away.
Yeah.
Whoever did the photos, props to them.
I feel like, dude, Airbnbs and VRBOs, they're like photos and shit. They should honestly, like, it's bad.
It is pretty bad.
Like, misleading photos and
we get there, I'm like,
on Airbnbs.
And Dre's like, what do you think of the place? I'm like, it's not bad. Like, for a bachelor trip, we're just there to sleep pretty much. Like, we weren't really like, hanging out.
I was thinking about that too. You saw the inside of the Airbnb for like a collective maybe 30 minutes outside of sleeping. Not even. And 15 minutes of it was
about,
sink.
Yeah. And my sleeping was only about 2 hours total there. Yeah, probably less than that.
But right when I booked it, I book it and then it sends me the address and says Indiana. I'm like, dude, I just booked a different state Airbnb. I'm like, and it's like for like $100 you could do like the refund deal. I'm like, I don't need that. And then right when I did, I'm like, I just wasted $3,500 on booking the wrong Airbnb in a different state. And come to find out I was only 17 minutes away, which made me feel a lot better.
Yeah,
Mini panic attack.
This is Thursday night that we're rolling in. And we'll get to why I have a stuffy nose. But we roll in, and what was that restaurant that we went to? Eight
Up.
Yeah.
8 Up at Samantha. She did great. She's like, where are you guys eating at night? And I've just always been on trips where we just kind of figure it out. She's like, oh, you got to plan dinner. I'm like, well, if we're doing tours for like bourbon all day, people are probably going to be pretty tipsy and they'll eat anything. But the first night, she scheduled us dinner at 8 Up. Probably a little too fancy for any of us. I think Boyan brought a suit for one night. I'm like, yeah. And Todd's like, all I brought was t-shirts. I'm like, I don't know what he's doing. He dressed up really fancy the first night.
We had a running joke that he was our chaperone. We were on a field trip.
He was our driver.
Yeah.
So we go out to this 8 Up place, which was infested with like homeless people around the bottom of that hotel. And
yeah, that was kind of weird.
It was actually kind of weird trying to get into that place.
Yeah.
Because we showed up in the second Uber and took like 3 laps around the building. And there wasn't a single helpful person around that place to try to get us to the restaurant.
We did the first thing, and the security guard was like over there in his little window, and someone tried to walk up to him, and he was like, I'm on the phone. He
was like, nah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we finally get up top, and we're like, should we call him and let him know like how to get in? And I think it's Reyes. He's like, they should struggle like we struggled.
Well, I think everyone that showed up there struggled. So this place is in the worst location. The place wasn't like the atmosphere.
Well, it was right off 4th Street because we could see the main drag of kind of like our P&L here.
Like, what is it, Whiskey Row or whatever?
No, it
was like 4th Street.
Something live.
Well, that's the PBR deal. That street, I don't know.
4th Street live.
We went all the way to
Live.
Kentucky to go to PBR.
And that's where shit went south.
Yeah. So at the 8 Up place, we have drinks there. It took forever. And then finally we finished up there and we decided that we could see at that point we probably should have just hung the hat up and went home and went to sleep.
We also tried getting shots there. They're like, yeah, we don't do shots here.
Yeah.
That's when we're like, oh, we're at a nice restaurant.
Thank
They
you,
also
Samantha.
didn't have their rooftop patio open.
Yeah,
which is
it
kinda
closed
weird.
down. They told us like leave.
Yeah.
So we're the last ones out of that place, and we're like, let's go over to PBR. And PBR, Ghost Town. And we hang out there for a little while. Then we make one other pit stop, and then we head on to the casino. And
some people did.
Half the people came to the casino, or a third.
We could talk about getting harassed by the homeless guy.
Oh yeah.
that was kind of
Yeah,
funny.
we all have crabs apparently.
Yeah, that homeless guy was trying to fight Reyes.
Yeah.
We almost lost Reyes by attack of a homeless dude.
I think we need to plug a photo of Reyes in so everyone knows what Reyes looks like.
So we end up at the casino at, what time was that? 2 o'clock? 1:30?
It was late.
I think it was like 1:30. We ended up at this casino. And we actually had no earthly idea how far away from our house we were.
So we couldn't figure out who ordered the Uber. And everyone's like, Dre, you ordered it. You ordered it. I'm looking at my Uber receipt. I'm like, guys, it wasn't me.
So at this point, at the end,
Dane ordered it.
Yeah, but hold on, back up here. Like, so we're at the bar, and like part of the group ducks out pretty early. They're like, okay, we're going back. We're gonna get some sleep. We're gonna get some food, whatever.
They were being smart.
The quitters.
So I think four of the 12 left first, and then Dalton, Alex, and I were like ready to go. It was like probably around 1. So Dalton orders an Uber. We're like, all right, we're out of here. We've had enough. We're going back. We get back. Todd's ordered a shit ton of White Castle.
I think he ordered 2 different $200 orders of White Castle.
Yeah. So we literally had as much White Castle as you could possibly eat. We were pumped about it.
That sounds way better than casino.
Yeah. So we had left 5 of the group at the bar, and that's when you guys ordered when you ended up at the casino. But where I'm going with this is that some of the people that got in the Uber didn't know they were going to the casino, right?
I have no idea. I don't really remember.
Dane ordered the Uber.
So I don't really remember like heading to the casino, but I did come back to at the casino. So we've been drinking a good amount at this point, and then we're at the casino, and I remember getting there, and I'm literally losing every single
first
game
we're
I
looking
played.
at the map, and we're in this one town for like 15 minutes, and it looks like we're not moving. We're going in like a circle. I guess a lot of windy roads, and then we are in the complete opposite direction of our Airbnb. Like we're 30, 45 minutes away.
Because there's no casinos in Kentucky, so you guys had to go like far south, like
So I
down
think
the border.
we were 45 minutes from our Airbnb.
like
so
southwest.
So at like probably 3:30, we start trying to get an Uber from the casino. We want to leave. All their food places are closed down. So we're buying stuff out of a vending machine. We're staying in the lobby. Boyan has booked a $385 room. And we're like, we're just going to stay here and then we'll regroup with everyone tomorrow. And we're in this lobby, and then all of a sudden Huber's phone goes off and he gets an Uber.
We all have this app pulled up, and we've been trying for the last 2
Reyes
hours.
was asleep in the lobby.
Yeah, he's laying face down. He looks like Patrick Starr. And the lady's like, is he okay? I was like, we're going to have to get security. I was like, no, we're just all tired.
Yeah.
Like,
They said you can't sleep in the lobby. So he's literally sprawled out in the middle of this lobby. And she's like, is he awake? I'm like, yeah, he's awake. And I go over, and finally, like, once Uber gets there, and he's been laying there for 45 minutes. Because Dane and Boyan are talking with the individuals up front trying to get the room. And they're like, we're just going to try a little bit longer. Then finally, Alex gets the Uber. And then...
Huber got it.
Huber gets the Uber.
Trey doesn't know who's there.
Yeah, Alex was back home with us.
I go over to Reyes. I'm like, hey, get up. I'm like kind of like kicking him on the ground. I'm like, dude. He's like, what? He gets up, and then I think our Uber gets back at 5:45, 6 a.m.
Yeah, so I had the privilege of sharing a bed with Dre during this trip.
Spice?
And yeah, right. Now I know what Samantha lives with.
She's blessed.
So,
Blessed.
So I get back early, go to bed. I remember I'm thinking, I hope these guys get home soon or whatever, but I'm surely going to know when they do. Look at my phone. It's 2:20. I go to bed, wake up to Dre walking in the room, and I'm like, okay, whatever. I like blinked and Dre walked in the room. I didn't know how long it had been. I look at my phone and it was 5:28 in the morning, and we got to be on this bus to go to the distilleries at like 8:30 to 9. And I'm like, good God, man. And then Dre comes in, he just plops down on the bed and is out like a light immediately. And there comes the snoring. And yeah, that was about all the sleep I got until I put my AirPods in on the noise cancellation.
Time to get up when you guys came back. It was so late. I'm like, oh, that's time to get up. And then I see Huber like running up the stairs. And I look at my phone and I'm like, I'm not going back to bed. No daylight out.
Yeah,
so that was the first night. We took it pretty chill.
What were the vibes like in that Uber on the way back to the Airbnb?
I slept.
I think it was actually.
How was
so
the
the
seating
Uber.
arrangement?
So actually, when we
let's
get
talk about the seating arrangement.
the Uber gets there, I'm climbing in the front.
Wasn't it a 4-person car
Yeah.
for 5
This dude, the
5
Uber
months.
driver's like 80 years old. He's like, it's only 4 people. And at this point, I'm like, I'm gonna fight him. I'm just gonna steal his car. I'm like 100%. I'm looking at Boyan. I'm like, we'll just kick him out of his car
Like
and take it.
this was almost rock bottom. I'm like, we've been trying to order an Uber for 2 hours, and then I call their taxi they give you, and the guy's like, "Do you know where I'm at?" I'm like, "How would I know
So at this
where
point,
you're at?"
I haven't paid for the Uber, so I don't really care. And I look at the guy, I pull a $100 bill out of my pocket. I was like, 5 of us are going. He's like, okay. I was
There
like,
you go.
at this point, I didn't care. Like, I want to get home. And so I fell asleep in the Uber. The 3 of them are sitting in the back of Dre's laying across the top of them.
Yeah.
How did you draw the short stick there?
They all hopped in really fast. And I was like, oh.
So at this point, I think we were all pretty messed up, so we didn't know who ordered the Uber. And I found out later it was me.
Yeah.
But, so we were all pretty mad at Dre because we thought Dre got us to the casino. So, but then we go home, we take a quick cat nap, and I'm telling you, that felt like I slept for about 4 minutes. And then
It always does when you have one of those.
I get up,
Yeah.
and I'm the last one. So we have two showers in this place.
For 12 dudes.
So
And
12
all
guys.
of us wake up at about 8:30 and we have to be on this bus at 9.
We're supposed to be on the bus at 8:30, and the guy's there at 8:30. And
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like, come on.
No, I got there at like 8.
Yeah.
He pulled
So
up at 8.
Oh, he
I
that's
wasn't
how I
awake,
woke
so
up is he
I-
calls me. He's like, hey, I'm outside. I look at my phone. I'm like,
Fuck.
dude,
It's gonna be a while.
we're screwed.
so at first I'm thinking like, you know what? I'm just gonna sleep, and then I'll catch him at like noon. I'll get an Uber and join them somewhere along the tour.
Probably would have been better off of you.
For
did that.
your bachelor party, Dane's like, I'm going to skip the tours we've all been planning.
Yeah. So I get up. I go try to take a shower. I literally got ready in 5 minutes this time. On the last one, I had 0 hot water, and the towel is like this fucking big. And I'm trying to dry myself with in there. I'm like, oh my god. So we end up going out, and I feel really shitty when we get to the first place. I'm like, you know what? It'd probably make it better is a drink.
Where was that at?
Weller Stitzel.
At Weller Stitzel. That one, honestly, most educating stuff I think I learned on any of them.
I'm surprised you guys remember it.
So the coolest thing
cool.
was when we show up, like all the trees there are black.
Yeah.
And
Bless you.
hey,
Bless you.
bless you, dog.
Hey, don't.
You okay?
You okay? You
I
got any
think
blood?
so.
All right, cool.
Just let me know if I start dripping.
So
That'll make more sense in a minute.
Yeah. So we get to Weller Stitzel was our first tour, and I didn't know Pappy Van Winkle, like that used to be his distillery, and like there was like so much cool history behind that, and that is not where you buy Weller either.
No.
They sold off all the brands. They had
Yeah.
Pappy.
They had Old
all of it
Fitzgerald.
there. Yeah.
Which was weird though that they were selling them and buying other ones at the same time.
Yeah.
That was strange
Yeah.
to me, but
But I feel like it's kind of weird how they just like sell off like a whole like line
Mm-hmm.
that way. That it's like
How many barrels do you think they have sitting to sell off a line? Or you think
Dude,
they're
they
just,
sell
figured,
off like all the.
recipe and the name. It's like
Yeah. Like
what do they do with the rest of the barrels they have in?
copyright stuff.
I mean, I
use it
guess
for
they probably
something
did,
else.
yeah, because they probably were still aging stuff. Like
Yeah, they may have sold the barrels or they may have just used it
Yeah.
for another
Yeah.
product line.
maybe a quick
They mix it and shit.
quick way to get some cash in.
Yeah.
You want a quick bill
I know.
real
So
fast?
one thing I do know that I don't even think they talked about is like, well, we did go to Heaven Hill briefly, but they like other distilleries once Heaven Hill caught on fire in the 90s were like selling them barrels to make Heaven Hill. So a lot of them can like intermingle.
If their
and they can,
if their like mash bill is close enough
Yeah.
to the other one, they can
Yeah.
just age it for however long they need to.
because that guy was saying what 2.5% of the world's bourbon got burnt essentially. in
That's
that
right.
fire.
So is that the same for all of them besides Jim Beam? Because Jim Beam like has to taste the same across all of them.
I mean, I
Really, just their mash like bill, and like each one of them is going to be like
I think they can mix them enough to make like a flavor that's
Yeah.
similar to what you're gonna.
And I mean, think about it. Even at that point, if it's like, okay, we're gonna sell something that's similar but not exactly our product, or we're not gonna sell any product for the next however many years,
Yeah.
we're gonna sell.
You'll figure
yeah,
something.
so-
You'll figure something.
It's close enough. Like half of them can't taste a difference anyway. So
yeah. So we go to Weller Stitzel, then we go to
Well, we go to Weller Stitzel and then we do a tasting. So about 9:30, we start drinking more whiskey, and then Dane goes and gets
bourbon, buddy.
or
bourbon.
bourbon.
Know what you're talking about.
Dane goes
We went
and
through
gets
classes all day.
I didn't remember shit.
Dane goes and gets smoked trout at 10 a.m. to eat.
Yeah, that was good.
That was
caviar.
pretty good, with the caviar on top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That
You wanna
was
talk about a
probably- that
bougie
was
man,
the
right?
healthiest food that we had
Do
all
I?
weekend. That was
Yeah.
the healthiest food we had all weekend.
and it was
For sure.
Oh, the Jim Beam, that burger there was fire.
It was good, but
yeah. It was
I
good
felt
burger.
like shit from everything we ate. To be
I
honest,
don't think anyone felt
Well,
good.
to be fair,
and drink.
after that was like my last meal after Jim Beam. So,
Fair.
so I hadn't eaten a whole lot up to this point, anyways.
Yeah, and so the thing about this is like, not only did like, so they woke up like extremely not feeling well. Like the rest of us felt okay, but you know, like we could tell that we stayed up a little late last night. But the thing about running late is that the guy was like, we didn't leave the Airbnb until like 9:12. And our first tour was at 9:30 and like 30 minutes away. So we weren't going to make it. And the guy's like, you're going to leave you. So we didn't have time to stop for energy drinks. We didn't have time to get snacks or anything. So we're all
We
like
had no water.
feeling a little bad already. And you don't get any like food or energy drinks to help you out.
When you wake up,
Dude,
and you're not hungover.
we were a pretty pitiful looking group of dudes. Showing up to that place. Oh,
and
the driver was nice.
And none of us packed jackets, and it was like 55 degrees.
So we're all
and the
standing
wind's
there in
blowing.
t-shirts. I'm like, this is fun.
You guys, you know what? Usually I do this outside, but since you guys are all cold, we'll go inside.
We would appreciate that, sir.
Sounds great.
It's like, looks like you guys didn't read the weather report, did you?
Yeah.
No, I actually I load packed all shorts and t-shirts. But no, so we get down there and then we travel on to
Jim Beam.
Jim Beam.
Jim Beam. Yeah, because we're supposed to have
We
3.
showed up like exactly when our tasting was starting at Jim Beam too. So again, no stops, no food. I hadn't eaten anything all day. 2 whiskey
Besides
tastes, 2
smoked
bourbon
trout.
tasting.
Yeah,
I had a lot of smoked
shit.
trout.
Oh yeah, we
Crackers.
did have that. I forgot about
Some
that. Okay.
cheese.
It was a charcuterie board.
Yeah, we had
to
a
go.
charcuterie.
So I literally go like right when
Shout
we get
out
done with
Todd.
our tour.
Todd was pulling the dad
Yeah.
card, got us some food.
When we get done with our tour at the Weller Stitzel, I literally go right out. He's like, you can go up top, have some drinks, everything after the tasting. And I go out and ask her, I'm like, when do we have to leave? He's like, you have 6 minutes. I was like, cool. So I go up. I'm like, Todd's like, I think he ordered like $250 worth of apps. And I was like,
That's all I really had was apps.
and I literally asked him, I'm like, can you get all that to go? They're like, we don't really do to go. I'm like, our bus leaves in 6 minutes. So it's either that or we're canceling the order.
Yeah.
But then we get to Jim Beam. Jim Beam was impressive. Like,
Jim Beam was
That was
awesome.
my favorite place.
Controls, what, 45% of the market?
was it that high?
It was,
Mm.
it was that high. That was
it
one
was
stat.
it was a pretty big
It was a
number.
pretty big number.
It was
It was over 30%. I don't remember.
They
the
have
exact
they have
number.
3.3 million barrels
Yeah.
ready
Aging,
like
yeah.
all the time.
Aging. Yeah.
So it's like we were just doing the quick math on it. If you were just saying all those barrels are Jim Beam, the cheapest whiskey that they have at $20, which you know that over 50% of those aren't.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have Booker's, you're gonna have everything else that they have coming out of that distillery. And just at $20, that's like 17 and some change, like billions of dollars in whiskey.
Yeah.
So
just a little bit.
yeah. But I think their campus, like everything that they had out there was, I mean,
Yeah.
and then what was that, their second largest one? Grounds?
Well, yeah, their other one was bigger.
Yeah,
And,
we
they said
get
it was
there-
20 minutes away.
Yeah, it said like 20 minutes away. They have like their bigger facility, and this place is ginormous.
It's probably one of the fanciest places I've been to. I take that back. The next place was probably fancier. But
You've not been to many fancy places.
Fancy? That's how you would describe
You would
Jim
describe that
Beam's
as
facility?
fancy?
yeah, that place we went and ate was pretty fancy.
The fanciest place you've ever eaten?
I'm not saying ever eaten. For a bourbon place, I thought it was pretty fancy.
I thought you were saying like ever eaten.
I was
like,
expecting like a barn with some animals in it and a couple barrels hanging from the roof.
I mean, even Weller Stitzel was pretty nice. I mean, it was old.
Would you consider it fancy?
Dude, they do.
I would say
The
Weller
lounge
Stitzel is
upstairs?
definitely fancier than
The lounge
Jim Beam.
upstairs was pretty
I
fancy.
disagree with that.
It was,
dude,
I mean, it had like a rustic vibe, but it was.
when you're pulling up to these, you can see like all the rick houses. It looks like you're pulling up to O Block. Like it looks like you're pulling up to the ghetto.
Yeah, I think Jamie did say that when we were pulling up to Weller Stitzel. He's like, "Are we in the fucking projects right now?" We're like, What's
it does
going
kind
on?
of look like prisons, like
just
all
a
inside.
bunch of black, big tall buildings.
Yeah, it's like
8-story,
windows
9-story
like
buildings.
lined up.
Yeah.
on
And
each floor.
every single one's black.
Yeah. So it was. I don't think anything crazy happened at Jim Beam.
No,
No,
we
we did have- it was
uh,
good.
we
had
got
some-
biscuits
Yeah, it was
with our
funny.
tasting,
Yeah.
which was probably some of the best food I've eaten that day because I hadn't eaten yet.
Those things were terrible.
Dude,
They were,
I
Dude,
haven't.
is your brain good?
So I didn't eat anything from the first place
Just so you
Because
know the
Dane-
size, they were not biscuits. It was a small,
it was
soft
about the size of
cracker.
a quarter.
it was
It
a
wasn't-
palate
mine wasn't
cleanser.
even soft.
It was
Mine was
literally a
hard.
palate
What?
cleanser.
Mine was hard.
Well, it was like a mix. It was like,
Yeah,
it wasn't a cracker where it's crunchy. It was like soft.
So-
but it was like dry as fuck.
Preface, when we were trying to leave the casino, Dane and I were getting into a fight because Dane's like, we're stopping by a Waffle House to get food.
I was trying to go Waffle House.
And I'm like, we can't even get an Uber, so we're not going.
Yeah.
So I was hungry for about almost 16
I
hours.
think we did text you and say there was like $300 worth of White Castle left.
He didn't tell anyone.
Oh yeah, I did. I did send Dre that.
Yeah,
text.
I was like, I sent that
texted
to him
Dre
at
before-
2:45.
I had
yeah.
bigger I had bigger issues
So-
at that point.
Before I went to sleep, I texted Dre and I said, "Are you guys okay or whatever?"
Well, we were about to stay at the.
Yeah,
Yeah, we were
I said-
doing
I said,
fantastic.
at 1:10 a.m., I said, "How y'all doing?" He said, "Good." I said, at 1:18, I said, "Cool. Tons of food at the Airbnb, by the way."
Thanks for letting us know, pal.
And no reply.
So, back to our tasting day. We get done at Jim Beam, and we're ahead of schedule now at this point.
yeah,
We're doing so well. And what you have to understand, too, when you're out there, these distilleries aren't like right down the street from each other.
No.
They're a trek in between.
It's about an hour to an hour 30 in between each one.
I don't think it was that far.
It was. Dude, GPS
Bro.
it because when I looked him up, I'm about done with you guys. I'm about to leave.
So, I would say they're about 30 minutes apiece.
yeah.
And
The last
Anything else you want to argue with me
the
about?
problem with it
these
was
people are
that
gonna be
we
like,
were,
dude, these places are 2 hours
Yeah.
away from each other. How'd these guys get to 4 of these with an
Yeah.
8-hour drive in
the
between?
problem was that we were getting progressively farther away from our Airbnb. So
That's
it was
true.
like we ended up, yes, Dre, the last bus ride was like an hour and a half.
The last one
That was miserable.
Yeah, I slept on that one too.
Yeah.
So we after we get done at Jim Beam, we have extra time, so we hit Heaven Hill.
So I get off the bus and I go up to the bar because I thought that's where everyone was going.
Trey just sits up there by
Chilling
himself.
by yourself.
I go up, I order a beer, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, why did I even get a drink? And it was so hard. I'm like, dude, last thing I want right now is more booze. And I sat there, felt like forever, not giving a time reference. But I sat there and I'm like halfway through this beer, and I think Boyan comes up. He's like, how you doing? I'm like, dude, I'm so tired. I'm like, I just want to go back to the Airbnb and go to bed.
So I think we're all getting pretty tired at that point, and then we head on to Maker's Mark.
That was our last stop of the day.
Yeah. So it was
We
pretty
did
cool.
get to hit a gas station from Jim Beam to
Oh, yeah.
Makers.
Yeah.
We'd kind of rallied a little bit. Like most of us were feeling pretty good by that point, but there were
Yeah.
still a few guys. Who
I
were
chugged a
struggling.
Bang energy drink in a 5 hour, and then brought me back to life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we roll into Maker's Mark. I think Maker's Mark was pretty cool.
Would you say it was fancy? I would say that one was.
That one
definitely
was kind of
fancy.
fancy.
Yeah, the bar.
They had a lot of
the bar
artwork and stuff in there
Yeah.
that was pretty high
there,
end.
bar
That was like
back.
definitely a weird vibe, I think, when you came in.
Yeah.
But what was the lady of Maker's Mark? Nancy?
Our tour guide?
No,
No,
the founder's wife.
The founder's
that I
wife.
don't remember.
She was really into art. I
Yeah.
listened during the tour.
Yeah, I did
much
too. I
of
just
that.
can't remember her name. It's on the bottle, I think.
Yeah. I think I bought one. It's down below there.
Yeah.
But
Sick.
so she was really into art. That's why there's like super high end
Yeah.
art everywhere there.
That's cool.
But
We got to dip our own bottles. That was really cool. Actually, that was one of my favorite parts of the day.
yeah.
That was the first time we got to see like the mash tanks.
Yeah.
Which was cool.
Yeah,
Got to see the yeast, like, bubbling.
working.
And those places smelled so good.
Yeah.
It did. It smelled like,
From
that
like a
mash.
bakery.
Yeah.
So we get done with that, and then we had to take an hour and a half car ride home, van ride, and we stop at a gas station right before we get to the Airbnb. I get a shitty breakfast sandwich from the gas station. This was like a sketchy gas station. And then we get to the Airbnb. And we're supposed to do distilleries the whole next day. And
We were just
So,
gonna
yeah.
we were gonna have a chill night. We had already ordered pizza on the way back. We were about to go pick it up.
Had
is what,
that.
7
Had a
o'clock?
box
Yeah,
full of
box
cigars.
of cigars. We're all just gonna chill on the deck. And
We
kinda
we had a
recuperate.
limo planned for the next day, 2 distilleries, a brewery to hang out at. That's kind of like Chicken and Pickle. To go hang out at the end of the
Are you
day.
salty at all?
No,
sounds
no,
salty.
I don't want to say it, but
Notice how Dre's saying had.
Yeah.
This was planned. It was
Yeah.
never executed.
yeah. And then text them later that night and canceled it all.
So 7 o'clock, we roll into our Airbnb. First thing I do is grab a remote. I'm going to get on the recliner. And I'm like, dibs. And I sneeze and start getting a bloody nose. I end up at the sink. And I had nose surgery 2.5 weeks before this.
Did you give the stat of 4 in 10 million people die from nosebleeds?
Yeah.
Okay.
I looked up that stat when I was in the hospital, actually. So earlier this month, I had surgery on a deviated septum, sinuses cleaned, all that stuff, and scraped. And I'd finally been at like the recovery side. 2 weeks, I'd taken it pretty easy on doing everything. And then they pulled all the scabs out, all that on Tuesday before we went to Kentucky. So I was like in the clear. And Friday, I sneeze. When my nose starts bleeding, I get over to the sink. It's like pouring blood into my throat. And this is when, at first, I'm like, I think I got a pretty big problem. And I think Logan was like the first one over. Yeah. I was like, bro, call 911. Like,
yeah. So like we were all kind of filtering in, getting stuff off the bus and whatever. Like some of us were getting ready to go get pizza, and I was like kind of trying to feel out like what Dane was wanting to do, because I was going to start to like plan out a little bit of the rest of the night. And I was in the kitchen with him, and I thought you were cleaning out. So he's been having to clean out his nose too with this like deal that pushes water through it. And I thought he was doing that over the sink, because I heard the sink running for a long time. And it was like 2 or 3 minutes after hearing the sink running that I started to like, I was like, what is he doing? So I walked over there, and I was like, you good? And you told me, you're like, I got a bloody nose. And I was like, oh, okay. Thinking no big deal, because you've had some, like it'll stop.
Like everyone listening to this has probably had a bloody nose before.
Like a normal one. And
I've had a bloody nose before too. So.
I stand there for like a minute, and I hadn't really like even looked in the sink, and it was just kept going or whatever. And then after like a minute, I looked in the sink, and it was puddles of blood every second coming out of his nose. It was like as big around as
my mouth
as a cheeseburger. He was spitting it out of his nose and mouth. And immediately I thought, holy shit, that's a lot of blood. But also Dane's not the guy that like likes to go to the hospital, like freaks out about stuff. So I was like, he's probably going to get mad at me if I ask if he's okay. So I'm just not going to say anything to him. And then after like 30 more seconds of it, I was like, does it normally bleed this much? And that's when you were like, no, I need to go to the hospital now. I was like, oh, fuck.
So in this meantime, I'm bringing in my Ruffles I got at the gas station with my French dip I also got. And I'm like, dude, later tonight, this is going to be phenomenal. And then I had a water I got. I'm like, I'll get it all put in the fridge. I set it down. Right when I set it down, Logan's like, we need to call 911. And I'm like, for what? And I look over, and the sink, it's like the two sides of the sink.
Like
it's
farm style.
Yeah, it's covered. It's all red. I'm like, oh, that's not good. And I didn't know it was his nose yet. I'm just like, all right, sick.
And at this point, it's like flowing into my throat so much that it's like, I tell them call 911, and I've broken a lot of bones racing motorcycles. I've seen a lot of wounds, things like that. I've had a lot of stitches. Like, I've never seen that amount of blood before. And I was telling Dalton, look, I'm like, dude, I'm bleeding out like right here.
Well, the way I started thinking of it is like when you see someone get shot in a movie and they start bleeding out their nose and their mouth. I was like, that's almost what it looked like.
Yeah.
And it was like, it just kept coming. And finally the EMTs get there. And like, I'm the first one to like, high kudos to fucking first responders and stuff. But these two were fucking dipshits. And it was
really call them out, Nick.
Dude, the guy's like, well, we literally, no sense of urgency. We get the ambulance, and he's like, whoa, I just have a bachelor party here. They're staying at Airbnb. They've been partying all day. He just has a bloody nose. And I'm like literally spitting up blood into a sack that's filling up like so quickly. And he's calling hospitals to see who would take an out-of-state person.
Yeah.
I was like, is this real life right now? And they put me on a stretcher out there to put me in the back. And I'm like, dude, I can step up into the like back. I'm not in pain at this point. It's just blood is just exiting my body so quickly. And they're digging around, making sure I have like, I'm all strapped into this gurney thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is like, is this real? Like the sense of urgency was not there whatsoever. And if he tells the ladies like, oh, we don't need lights or anything. It's just a bloody nose. So they drive speed limit all the way to the hospital, get to the hospital. Hospital wasn't a whole lot better. And they go in, they sent me there like, oh yeah, they've been out drinking. He has a bloody nose. I was like telling him, I'm like, dude, I had surgery earlier this month. Like something like a scab came off of something. It's on like a vessel line, like is pouring into my throat. And this bag is now like this full of blood. And then my dad followed to the hospital. We're in the ER. And where were we even at? Like
downtown Jeffersonville.
Yeah, it was really close to where we got pizza from.
Yeah,
it was like a 15-minute drive.
Downtown Jeffersonville, Indiana.
So this is like a postage stamp of a hospital.
So we're following, and the entire time they're going the speed limit. We're in the car. We're like, oh, they must have got it stopped. And then we get on the highway, and they like actually speed up to like 80. And then Dad's like, oh, maybe it started again. They get some urgency. They get there, and we look at Dan. I'm like, okay, obviously nothing's changed.
Yeah.
So Dad goes in through the emergency or the where the emergency people go in, and Boyan and I go up front because like we can only have one in the back or whatever. So we go up front. We're sitting up there for maybe 30 minutes, and everyone's just nonchalant, like nothing's happening. I was like, okay, him and I are both thinking like everything's calm, like they got it stopped, like obviously routing to get to the hospital, like people are on it. From what we thought. And then after about 30 minutes, I'm like, hey, can I go back now? Like, is it time? The lady's like, oh, yeah. Takes me back. And at that point, that's right when our dad started getting mad. He's like, hey, he had surgery on his nose, found the doctor. The doctor's like, oh, he had surgery? No one told me. After we told the paramedics about 20 times, to be like, he had surgery, and we told him exactly what to do. Like, he needed this blood clotting medicine. He needs this to pack his nose, like if this were to happen.
Yeah.
And then just nothing got relayed.
Yeah. And sitting back there just bleeding like crazy. And then finally, doctor ends up in there. 4 nurses were in there, Dre, my dad, and they start giving me all this blood clotting stuff. And I'm on IVs. They're pumping me with liquids. And it's like, then at this point now, the doctor's like, well, we probably need to start prepping for a blood transfusion also. Like, he's lost so much blood. I'm like, now you guys want to realize that I've lost a lot of blood.
Now that the bag's full, he's lost a bit.
Now we're on bag number 2, and this one's almost full. Like,
it's not including the sink.
Yeah.
What was in the sink.
And it's like, so we're sitting in the room, and so he finally goes to start trying to plug it. And
I don't know if anyone's ever watched what a lobotomy is. Where they push the spike straight up. It was about 5 inches.
Yeah, that thing. I don't know. They pulled that thing out, and at first, like,
it's about a half inch wide and about 5 inches long, going straight up into your.
Yeah, at first he's like, you need pain meds. I'm like, nothing hurts right now. I'm just bleeding, so I don't need pain meds. So they don't give me anything, and then they come in with these tube things that they are going to shove in my nose and air up. And literally the first one, like, never experienced something so painful in my life, that they literally shove these things in and they air up the first one, and then literally tries 8 times on my right side.
It was about he pulled out 4 times. Like, he got it about an inch and a half in, and then would pull it back out, and then he's like looking in your nose. Do it again. I'm sitting there. I'm like, dude, just send it or don't. I'm sitting there watching, and before this, Dane's coughing up this stuff because they're pumping this blood clot medicine up his nose, and he's coughing up things that are like 4 inches wide, and it looks like liver, just because the blood clot's so thick. And he coughs one onto our dad's hand, or onto his arm. It hits him, and my dad's like, "What the fuck is that?" And he freaks out. I'm like, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, I'm holding the bag at this point. I'm like,
the problem is, like,
so bad.
At this point, I'm starting to, like, kind of go in and out. I'm like starting to see why, and I'm like, it's triggering me to throw up. Like, I think your body sometimes just naturally like starts forcing itself to throw up, and I'm throwing up, but the only thing that's coming out is just straight blood. So I'm like throwing up, and I'm like coughing as I'm like throwing up, so blood's just like spewing everywhere. And they finally absolutely destroy my nose trying to get these things in there.
And after they do the first one, it was about 5 or 6 times, because they did his left nostril, then they go for the right, and 6th time they get it about 4/5 of the way in, and then just a little bit's hanging out. He's like, I think that's good. I was like, oh god.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have Caden put a picture.
And then he has 4 tubes hanging out of his nose. And I call his doctor. His doctor was super helpful on everything. Guiding us what to tell the doctor. Yeah, the Kansas City doctor that I went to on what to do actually in this situation. And he's sitting there. He's like, well, if he's good till Monday. And I'm looking at Dane's face. Dane looks like he got jumped.
See,
and his face was so swollen. And then he's like, you think he'll be good to Monday? I look over at Dane. Dane's face is all swollen. I'm like, nah, I don't think he'll be good till Monday.
Yeah, so at this point, these things are blown up, which then they had fentanyl. They had me on fentanyl. Then they had me on Dilaudid. And then they wanted me on hydrocodones to get home. And he's like, a lot of times he's like, people's body will go into shock after this. And he's like, we're not 100% sure. He's like, blood work looks halfway okay. He's like, I don't want to do a blood transfusion here. So he's like, start going home. He's like, if you start going into shock, get to the nearest ER as fast as possible. So my dad's like, I'll drive him all the way through to get him back to the doctor here in KC for Saturday morning.
And this is about
10 p.m.
10, yeah, 10:30 because his nose was bleeding for almost straight 2 hours.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Until they got it stopped, which that's a lot of blood. If anyone wants to use of what they caught at the doctor's, it's about 4 sizes of energy drinks for reference.
And that doesn't include the sink, and that was probably the heaviest flow of it the whole time.
It was that's probably definitely the most blood I've seen.
I cleaned coming out of someone's sink body. Out. There was a lot of blood.
I was kind of wondering when I was like getting in my dad's car. I was like, I wonder who cleaned the sink at the Airbnb.
I literally get back and look at on our drive back. I'm like, did you clean the sink? He's like, yeah, I got it clean. I said, thank you.
But yeah, so
that was Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, people probably are like, dude, it was a fucking bloody nose, really? Like,
dude, and I'm even the first one that I was like, a bloody nose, like really? It was like, and it was like a hemorrhaged blood vessel in the back, which the crazy thing is most of the time, like if you get a bloody nose and like you pinch your nose, like it stops.
Yeah. Because your blood will clot. I mean,
but it's also like anyone that's normally had a bloody nose, if you go like that, you may taste a little bit in your mouth. What was crazy was it was filling into my mouth like faster than I could spit it out.
Yeah.
Like at one point they had a suction deal on the side of my mouth that was just sucking blood straight out. That was flowing.
When you were over the sink, you just had your mouth open and it was just like a constant, like a sink was on, essentially.
Yeah. That's where I'm like, I was sitting over there, and if I just like leaned down, it was just straight out. And I've never seen like that shit you see on movies and like TV shows or like in the hospital. Yeah. They're like, oh, like these people are like bleeding like terrible.
We were talking where like this. I feel like this was an episode of like Grey's Anatomy or like House, where like someone comes in.
Dre watches a lot of Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, I have watched a lot of Grey's Anatomy.
But no, it was a little bit spooky at that point. And once they got the whole time I was in the hospital, I actually thought I was like going to bleed out in the hospital. Like I was pretty positive of it. And then when they got that left one in and they aired it up, it was the first time like since it started that it stopped pouring blood into my throat. That was like the first time I was like, I think I'm going to be okay. Like I didn't care how it hurt so bad. Like the pain level was off the chart.
So I don't think the pain was there until I watched him like, he literally grabs this tube that he's about to stick up your nose. He airs it up and then sucks it back out. I'm like, why would you do that? I feel like you just stretched it. And then he shoves it in. And while he's shoving it in, I'm one where I'm like, you can definitely tell when someone's in pain. And I'm watching that and I'm like, it's like making me clench because I'm like, that looks so painful. And then when he does the opposite side after he aired this one up, I'm like, oh. God.
Yeah, which I'm not a doctor, so I am glad we found somebody that could get that in there and get it aired up to stop the bleeding.
He got him in. He got it in.
But
if it doesn't fit, force it.
I mean, at that point,
I don't. They had no earthly idea what they were doing. They were all terrified in there. Like I could see it in the eyes of everyone that was in there. I'm like, this doesn't look good because you guys are all have the fear of God in your eyes. Like,
so honestly, I think Dad and I were probably the most calm.
100%.
We're sitting there and like they're like, we need this. I'm like, dude, you're doing good. I'm like, just spit into the bag. You're doing good. I'm like,
yeah, Dre and my dad are the only two calm ones in there. Yeah, they're all running around. They're like freaking out.
I'm like, guys, first time. Come on, he's in here all the time.
And one of the nurses is like, this is a lot of blood. Like, Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
And because halfway through, like one of my bags was like all the way full, and my dad's like, he's like, this is making my arm tired. Like, hold it. He's like, do you have another one of these? And he hands it, and the lady's eyes get like so big, like, holy shit, I didn't know that like there was that much in it.
Yeah.
And we get in the car, and that was the worst car ride of my life all the way back.
Yeah, you drive all the way through. I sent a text to the rest of the group. I'm like, hey guys, so Dane's leaving. He's going back to Kansas City. I'm like, we can still go to the breweries tomorrow if you guys want. And then we all kind of made the decision that celebrating the bachelor party without the bachelor would be kind of weird.
You guys could have FaceTimed
No, I'm
me.
just kidding.
Yeah, we could have.
But no, I was at the doctor here in Kansas City at 8 o'clock in the morning and removed all the crazy stuff that he had put in and then cleaned it up, put new plugs in and packing and everything here. And actually went today. So we're filming this on Wednesday. So I went today. They removed that, put different packing in, cauterized all the ends and everything in my nose. So should be good to jump on a plane this weekend. And if this airs on Monday, then I made it through the plane ride and I'm in Mexico.
Yeah.
So
If it doesn't air, we pulled it because he didn't make it to Mexico.
So no, made for a little bit of an eventful weekend. And I think the scariest part too is when I got back Saturday and Sunday. So Saturday I slept pretty much all day. I ate 3 times Saturday night, couldn't taste anything.
Well, that's what we get. We all get back, and then Boyan and I were like, hey, we'll go over, keep an eye on him that night. Just make sure he makes it through the night. And we get back, and Dane starts to fall asleep, and like one nostril's fully plugged, and like that, it's pushing on his septum in the top, so he can't really breathe through the other side. And when you sleep, you like breathe through your mouth, breathe out through your nose, like I do, or like I'll snore.
Sometimes you do.
Yeah, sometimes. Depends on what point I go to sleep during that.
How many beers you've had?
Unless it's early morning.
Yeah.
But I would sit there and Dane would be like, he'd breathe in, he'd be like, and he'd be like through his nostril, just like it whistling. And I'm like, and then he'd do that. And then he'd stop breathing for like 20, 25 seconds. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, just staring at Boyan fell asleep. Dane is like, I wouldn't really classify as sleep. And I'm sitting there just staring at him for probably like 3 hours watching him sleep. I'm like, dude, is he going to die? I'm like, is this like supposed to happen?
Yeah, the sleep up until today has been really, really rough because even with my nose fully packed, I can't fall asleep, and it's like my throat has hurt like crazy. Like just everything in my face has like been pressurized. And
if anyone wants to know what happened, if you know what roto-rooter is, where they kind of go in and just like spiral out a water line, that's kind of what they did to his sinuses.
Which the thing is, like my sinus surgery and stuff, like beginning of the month, like going through it all has been like wonderful. It hasn't hurt. Like it's been super smooth, and it's
You're
just like
the 1 in a million.
It's just like a 1 in a million chance that something like this happens. It just because you have so many like blood vessels and everything in your nasal cavities, like your sinus areas, that like once in a blue moon you'll have a scab that's on one of those that I sneezed and it blew that scab off, and it's like just a unfortunate event.
So then,
but it's like
then he sneezed today. Madison shoots me a text. She's like, so Dane sneezed. I'm like, why? I'm like, that's a bold move.
I couldn't like. The thing is, right after they took all that stuff out and left, it was like I got air in my nose again. It was like tickling my nose nonstop. I'm like, achoo, achoo. I'm like, don't sneeze. I'm like, achoo. But
hey, you just had to test it out. You're good. I mean,
I decided if I was going to do it and something was going to happen, I should be really close to the doctor that knows.
That's probably a good idea.
So I was like, you know,
ready
I'll
to plug it
like,
again, doc?
I'll sneeze like 40 times right outside his office, see if it happens.
Yeah.
No, so got that all cleaned up, and now I'll roll in the right direction again.
Yeah.
So in case anyone was wondering, we can actually accomplish a lot in 48 hours.
Yeah.
Because minus the fact that it's a 7.5, 8 hour drive there, 7.5 to 8 hour drive back. And then we fit as much as we could in 36 hours before Dane had to go to the hospital and come back.
I mean, I think we could have done like a Hangover movie of it.
It really could have been.
We would just have to put like when we went to PBR, there'd happen like a lot of people. Like PBR was kind of dead and like kind of boring.
Yeah.
But
We'll hype that part up.
yeah, if we just hyped up that and like kind of
Throw a monkey in there.
yeah, made it a little more over dramatic. Somebody found a baby. Like,
A baby. Someone lost a baby in the bathroom at PBR.
yeah, I think we could probably hype that up a little bit, make that a little bit more interesting. But besides that, I think that it could be a movie line.
Yeah.
It was definitely an interesting weekend.
But we
for
can
sure.
make it to where the
Yeah.
wedding's like on Monday, to where like you guys had to get me back in time.
Yeah.
So
And
we
get you to Mexico.
we get in Monday, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, I feel like Dane should tell everyone like kind of what happened at the office. So we get in, and everyone's like, "How's the weekend?" I'm like, "Man, it was pretty memorable."
Trip.
And they're like, "Was it fun?" I'm like, "Yeah, it was fun." I'm like, "It was just memorable." Everyone's like, "Oh, sick." And then I'm like, "Yeah, Dane's he's gonna come in a little bit late." They're like, "Oh, he have a rough time." I'm like, "Yeah, he did." So then Dane gets in, and Dane's like,
I never like I'm not late. Like it's not like I'm just not going to show up to work. And I show up and I like sound like crap. I'm all plugged up and everything. Everyone's kind of looking at me weird. Like, why does he sound like that? And like, we start talking and I thought you guys would have like, I was fine just being like, hey, tell everyone what happened. Like, it is what it is. Like, and then it's like, I get there and everyone's so confused. Like, why is Dane showing up at
I don't
10:30?
think none of us even had a conversation about like not saying anything. We all just didn't say anything. Like, yeah, it was good. Good time. Good trip.
like literally, everyone's like, "It was good," and then like we all just kind of look around because usually we have our Monday meeting, and they're like, "Is Dane not making it to the Monday meeting?" I'm like, "No," and then I think it was Kate, and he's like, "Oh, is he kind of hungover?" I'm like, he's something. He's something.
Yeah.
He's feeling rough.
Yeah.
He's feeling a little rough after the weekend. He's like, "So you guys had a good time?" I'm like, "Yeah."
I mean, we had a good time up until I messed it all up. But
Hey, someone's got to steal the show. Might as well be you on your
It
weekend.
was definitely entertainment, though. I mean, I don't know about entertainment per se, but it was definitely a lot of action.
Hey, if there's
of
drama in it, it's entertainment.
There you go.
I mean, I feel like everyone's going to remember my bachelor party.
I'd
So
say
that was actually the first bachelor party I've been on.
Same.
Maybe.
Is this what they're like? We didn't even lose them in a hotel.
No
Next
shit.
time somebody's gonna be like, Dre, you want to go on a bachelor party? He's like, no, absolutely not.
So I
Bad
was
idea.
actually about to go to one in Florida, and I was like,
Those were really your guys' first battle. Yeah.
So that's what Samantha. She's like, "Oh, first one." I'm like,
Entertaining, yeah.
"Yeah."
I've been
At
on
least
quite a few of
it
them.
was you, and it wasn't like one of us to where it would have ruined your bachelor party. I mean,
Yeah.
because of someone
Which,
else.
I mean, I don't care. Like, that's so.
Yeah, Dane's
Something
like, "I
like-
would have partied without you."
I'm saying, like, something like that's like way more important than fucking drinking
yeah.
during the
Oh,
day.
for
Like,
sure.
That's, but no, it's had all the right people around me and very thankful that the group of guys that were there and made it very smooth for. Like, I was in the hospital when they were working on discharge paperwork. Like, my dad went to the house. Everyone had my stuff already packed up. Like, helped my dad load the car. Like, picked me up and head straight back to KC. And just, like, everything was handled. And it was kind of a scary deal, but having all the right people made it a lot better.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, one for the books.
yeah. Can't get rid of me from a bloody nose. That'd been a
If
real
that's how you
bitch
went
way to
out,
go
man.
out.
I think that speech at that one, I'm like, man,
Yeah.
he took pain medicine for a bloody nose. I didn't want to be the one to say it, but
Yeah, if that's how my story would have ended, that would have been pretty weak ending to it.
I think we would have left the chapter open, let people give their own interpretation
Yeah.
of what happened.
Yeah, he fought off like 40 people out.
I would
behind
just
the
say,
airplane
like,
port.
I would have left it at the bourbon too. We lost him and we never saw him again.
Yeah.
He fell in one of them takes.
Yeah.
He's now in Maker's Mark whiskey. You get a taste of it every time you have it.
In your 101, he is in that.
Yeah. Now the police are investigating.
But I
Yeah.
mean,
That's good.
that was it.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts? If
No.
any business owners listening, we told you in the beginning there was no
Yeah.
business insight or marketing insight on this.
But
Just glad you're alive.
Yep.
And,
Glad you're alive. Had us pretty
Hopefully
worried there.
your guys' next bachelor parties are not so action packed.
so mine's going to be in Mexico.
a little different kind of action, maybe.
Mine's going to be in Mexico. So,
Yeah, Dre's might be fucking Hangover 2.0.
Yeah,
He
so
wants
you
to
guys
go.
might actually lose me.
yeah.
you
We're
might-
we're
you
by
might-
Dre a leash.
I think I'm gonna stay sober for Dre's bachelor party.
Nah, just buy an Apple AirTag.
Yeah.
You can follow me.
You know
around.
those.
We're gonna make you swallow it.
We're gonna get one of the really long leashes. You know, like the ones that like you tie like a dog up to a tree. or the ones you screw in the ground. We're gonna get one of those and we just hook Dre up like where the bar is. He can't get for that.
Yeah,
He can't get more than 50 feet away.
No one can grab him.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? Why does Dre keep peeing in the pool? He's chained to the bar.
Hey, we won't lose you.
But
I've lost Dre in Mexico before, so.
yeah, well,
That's a story for another time. That's a story for another time.
But no, we'll wrap that up. And like I said, this was a little bit different M3 podcast, and this will be airing on Monday, and we'll all be in Cabo for the wedding on Friday. So
yeah.
If anyone wants to party with Dane, just keep in mind, it may not go the way you're thinking.
Look up the nearest hospital before you do.
Hey, you always got to be ready. But thank you for joining. That's M3 Podcast. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to the M3 Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Want to learn more? Check us out on Instagram at Moss Marketing Group, on Facebook at Moss Marketing 58, or on our website at mossmarketinggroup.com.